Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Tom Rivera, and we're here at the Fowl Library at Cal State San Bernardino, and it's approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We're in room 4005, and our crew this afternoon is Mr. Frank Acosta, and he's behind the camera. And our guest this afternoon is Miss Esther Hernandez Ramos. Esther, welcome, and thank you very much for volunteering to be with our project this afternoon. The project is trying to get an oral history of people that lived in South Colton and record some of their experiences they had while they were growing up in South Colton.
Okay.
So welcome and thank you very much for being with us.
You're welcome.
First of all, Esther, your grandma was quite a person.
Oh, yes.
Your grandma was quite a person, and she had a tortilleria on South 7th Street. Can you tell us a little bit about your grandma and her tortilleria?
Well, my grandmother was born in Jaroches, Guanajuato in 1887. And she married my grandfather Cruz, and they lived around the same area. And they married in 1907 and came down to the United States on a train, paid a penny to get on the train, and they landed up in Arizona. And I don't know where my father was born in Arizona or in Mexico, or if he came when he was little or what, but he was born in 1907. And my tia Melinda was born in 1911 in Arizona, my tia Luz in Arizona.
What was your grandmother's name?
My grandmother's name was Dolores Venegas Hernandez, and my grandfather's Cruz Hernandez. And my grandfather was an orphan, and his aunt treated him very badly, so he decided they got married, and they decided they wanted to come to a better life. So they came to Arizona, and he worked there for a number of years. And then in 1914, they came to Colton. And they had a little stand where they sell tortillas, tacos.
And in Colton,
253 South 7th Street.
oh, so they had the little stand
Uh-huh.
that they started on 7th Street.
Yeah, 253 South 7th Street.
Same place where the
Tortilla was.
Uh-huh.
First they had a little stand, and then in the early 40s they built a tortilleria.
In the stand, what did they sell at the stand?
At the stand they sold tortillas, tacos, sodas, tamales on Saturdays.
So Grandma was an entrepreneur
Oh, yeah,
from the get-go,
entrepreneur.
a business person.
Oh, yes. She made, before they had the tortilleria, she made anything to sell, like dried jerky. And she also, in the 20s, she used to make brew.
Oh, tell me about what, because it was during Prohibition.
Yeah, during
that
Prohibition,
was very popular.
she learned how to make beer from her mother, and she knew how to make, I guess, hard liquor too. And they sold it, and my tío Beto sold it to some revenuers that came around looking, and they arrested my grandfather, and it was in the Colton Courier. And my Aunt Dolores never forgot it. She said, "Oh, what an embarrassment," and stuff. But they had to make their money any way they could, and.
But the distilling was popular back then.
During that time, yeah.
Yeah, because there was a prohibition. You weren't allowed to do it.
Yeah.
So everybody made their own beer.
Yeah, I know. And so she worked very hard, and she was a wonderful woman. She fed all the people that came to her door asking for handouts, the tramps, and she even fed Father Valencia. Father Valencia used to come and eat every day with my grandmothers. And we were in charge of the church.
What did you serve Father Valencia?
Oh, he had his own thing that he ate every day, either cereal, and he put everything in one bowl, milk and the camotes and everything in there, or whatever, or if he ate egg or weenies, he just put it all in one bowl and ate it like that. And he was always eating it, walking back to the house. My grandmother prepared it, and he walked back to the house to eat. But for many years, as long as he was there, he ate at my grandmother's, and we also cleaned the church and closed it up at night. And
so your grandma was very religious.
Oh yeah. We went to mass every morning, and we were I and all my sisters and my cousins, bell ringers of San Salvador. We rang the bell every morning for mass, every night for rosary, or when there was going to be a baptism. We had we went out there, and the father told us when there was going to be baptism because they threw the bolo.
And how old were you, Esther, when
Uh,
you were doing this for the church?
7, 8, 9 years old, around that area, around that time. And
And you couldn't be an altar girl back
oh,
then.
no. My brothers, my cousins, my Uncle Tony, everybody was altar boys. But women couldn't do that. So but we ofrecer flores, that's what we did.
You did what?
Ofrecer flores in the month of May for the Blessed Mother. And I was even 14 years and embarrassed to go, but Father Valencia made me, ponte un vestido blanco and come and ofrecer flores. So that's what we did. And
So offering flowers to the Virgin?
yeah, on the
Okay.
month of May, when it's,
Okay.
yeah.
Very
So-
great day. Now tell me about your grandmother. How did you start the store?
Like I said, she had a little stand, and then they decided in the early 40s they had enough money to build, and all the family helped build the tortilleria, which was just a long thing with a counter in the front and things to put the comales and stuff.
And it was on 7th Street.
7th Street.
On 7th Street.
Same place they were at. That's where they lived all their life.
Uh-huh.
And she opened it in the 40s, and when she died in 1966, my Aunt Dolores closed it, and that was the end of the tortilleria. But
Now who helped make the tortillas?
oh, my Aunt Luz, my tia Melinda, my grandmother made the corn, and my cousin Mary, and a lot of the ladies, one of the Garcia ladies, and another one, Chavez lady, and one from San Bernardino used to work there to make the tortillas, and my mother and my tia Chepa made the flour tortillas, and we all helped in making menudo, cutting it up, and cleaning everything for the Saturday and Sunday tamales and menudo.
And how many ollas of menudo did you make?
Ooh, my grandmother made big pots, big ones like that too, because she sold the menudo, and then of course we all ate there, so
Uh-huh.
we made and a lot of tamales. And
Did they pay you for cutting the menudo?
oh yeah,
How much were you paid?
well, if I cut the menudo and clean the hojas and the chilies, my grandmother gave us 25 cents each
So you cut the menudo, clean the hojas for what?
for the tamales.
Okay, okay.
And the chilies for the tamales.
Okay.
So we got paid 25 cents, and if we did a lot of extra work, we got 50. So that was a lot of money during that time. And then on Sundays, she said she knew that everybody had gone to Mass, she lined us up, and she said, okay, you went to Mass, 50 cents. 50 cents to every one of her grandchildren. And then my Uncle Tony used to be in charge of us when we used to go to the New Colton Theater, then to the Hub City. We went from one movie to the other. But she gave us 50 cents for attending church, so that's how come we went to Mass every
Sunday, huh?
And then we went with her during the week. But we were little and we enjoyed it, and it was my grandmother, an entrepreneur, that taught us everything we know about, helping people and just our religion. She taught me how to pray the rosary, and to this day we still have, our family prays the rosary every Wednesday together.
Did you work every day at the tortilla?
No, just Saturdays and Sundays, because I wrap the tortillas and I handle the cash register on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
And then during the week, I just didn't work. I just did my work for school.
And what about, was it a big, a successful business on Saturday and Sunday?
Oh, yeah, a lot of people. But like I said, my grandmother gave most of her money away. Half of it went to the church and the other half for the family and friends and stuff. She always gave people money and tortillas and
In the store was, you had the entrance?
Yeah, they had the entrance, and then there was a counter and the cash register, and where we
Okay.
wrapped the tortillas and gave to the people.
Okay, and then the room after that?
The room
Was it
after
kitchen?
that was a long, long room with a big comal, big, humongous comal for the tortillas, and then they had 4 of the metates where they did the masa and the tortillas.
And did your grandma live there?
No, they lived in the back. We had the house on the side. My mom and dad lived in the house on the side, and my tia Lola lived with her children, and my tia Chepa lived with her son, because my Uncle Jess was in the service. And then Tony lived in there. I don't know how we had so many things in that little. When I passed by, there's a little area, and I said, how did we have the house, the tortilleria, the chicken coop, the shower in back, and then 2 little houses, where my grandmother and grandfather lived in. Sometimes there was about 17 people living with my grandmother.
Wow, that's a lot of people,
yeah,
a lot of Hernandezes.
Yeah, because my dad and my mom lived there, and they had 7 children, so that's 9 of us right there. And yeah, but we all worked and enjoyed, and when I was a teenager, I wanted to make more money, so I went to the fields to work.
The fields were what?
Picking grapes, boysenberry, strawberry, tomatoes. The worst ones was potatoes and onions, because the onions, our nose bled from the smell of the onions, and then the potatoes, I couldn't walk for 3 days because you have to pick them, with you have a belt with hooks you put on it for the sack, and then you're stooped over picking potatoes on the ground.
Now, how did you get to the fields?
Don Chencho was a man that charged us 50 cents to take us to pick grapes.
Was he a contractor?
I guess he got paid by a contractor, but he charged us 50 cents to take us, and take us on a truck. And so we went to all the places that they picked.
So Don Chencho would pick you up early in the morning?
Yeah, 5 o'clock in the morning.
5 o'clock in the morning, and take you to the vineyards?
Yeah, vineyards or to the fields, wherever we were working. And then he brought us back home about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Now,
how old were you when you were doing the pictures?
13 to 15, or 13 to 16.
and did all the kids in the neighborhood?
No, they didn't want to. I took them, because they wanted to earn money, and I took a couple of my friends, and then the tomatoes, we were going to the tomatoes. They saw all these green, big things on it, and they didn't want to get near them. So they said, no, gusanos, the green gusanos, and they didn't want to get near them. My cousins, I took them all, and they didn't want to go. The only one that was a good worker, Martha, my sister. She worked hard, yeah.
Martha was in my kindergarten class, yes.
Yeah, so she was a hard worker, always wanted to make money, so I took her to the fields with me.
And you did that for how many years, Esther?
3-4 years. So, because they earned money to buy my clothes for school.
And where did you go to school?
I went to Garfield from, I think it was 1st grade to 5th grade, and then 6th to 8th at Wilson, graduated 48. And then I went to high school, graduated in 52, Colton High School.
Well, let's get back to Garfield Elementary School. You mentioned that you were a bocona.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, because they told us not to speak in Spanish.
Okay.
And I didn't listen. I spoke in Spanish all the time, so my teachers would get me by the ear, take me to the bathroom, wash my mouth out with soap, and said, don't you speak like that again. You have to speak English only. And so I said, oh, and then I went home because my lips got all swollen, and my grandmother said, well, don't speak in Spanish, then you have to learn English, but don't forget your language. You have to do it at home. So at home I spoke Spanish to her, read her the opinion, wrote letters to her parents and people in Mexico. So that's how come I learned how to speak Spanish and still keep my language.
Yeah. When was the last time you had your mouth washed?
Oh, God, when I was in the 7th grade, I think.
Todavía?
Yeah. Yeah, so, and they used to hit us with a ruler, too, in the hand. Don't speak like that. Don't say those words. And I said, and I was wondering, why can't we speak our language? That's our language, Why is it bad to speak our language? And so it was pretty bad. And then when I got to high school, I never realized we were segregated until I got to high school and I saw these Anglos, and they used to say, hi, little Mexican girl from across the tracks, is what they called us.
They would say that?
Yeah. And I have my annual, and I hardly ever read it until recently. I opened it up and I was looking at him. I said, how come I never noticed that they wrote to a little Mexican girl across the tracks? So that's
and the track was the dividing
line.
Oh,
the dividing line. And we used to go, when we were little, maybe I was about 8, 9, 10 years old, we used to go down into the north side because they gave out big candy bars.
Oh, tonight. Yeah. Today is Halloween.
Yeah, I know. And I remembered that today. And we used to go down on the other side. And then they said, no, you go back to your side. You can't be on this side. And they called the police, and the police just escorted us to go back to our side.
And how old were you then?
I was 8, 9, 10 when we used to go trick-or-treating.
So you'd go trick-or-treating in the north end, past the railroad tracks.
Oh, yeah.
And then they would sick the cops on you.
Oh, yeah. And then I used to go to the New Colton Theater. We have to sit on the left side. And they checked that we were sitting on the left side. And we had to sit on the left side because the Anglos sat on the right side. So.
But you mentioned that because of your friends, they had green eyes or...
Oh, yeah, my friend Alice Melchor, she had blue eyes and blonde hair, and we used to pass. We went into the plunge because we were not allowed until Thursday to go to the plunge if we were Mexicans. And so we used to pass, and we used to go any day because...
You passed because you were light-skinned?
Yeah, light-skinned. Yeah, exactly. So we used
So
to
you
pass
fooled
on.
them.
Oh yeah, yeah, because we spoke English, but that time, we were going to the plunge,
Uh-huh.
so they let us in. But on Friday they cleaned the plunge, so that's how come they let us go in on
And
Thursday.
how much was the admissions back then? ¿Te
About
acuerdas?
10 cents.
Oh,
About 10
okay,
cents.
okay.
Yeah, so not bad.
Uh-huh.
Because the 10 cents you used to pay at the theaters too. Popcorn 5 cents, sodas, and so
Uh-huh,
we
uh-huh.
had quite a bit, going from one place to the other, enjoying Sundays.
Well, you mentioned your two friends and you.
Hmm.
Esther, were the boys chasing you during that period?
Yeah, they always chased but we used to throw rocks like Martha, my sister, to them all the time. So, no, because we were just friends that hung around, and we, like I said, we played together and went to Rosary together. And at night, we didn't have television during that time, so my dad had a big radio, and we used to sit down, all the kids sitting down, listening to the Lone Ranger, the Green Hornet, Inter Sanctum, Father Knows Best. And we used to sit there, and we used to imagine in our minds, I think that's what's lacking with kids today, because they can't imagine. And we used to imagine what everything was happening in Inter Sanctum, when the creaky door, and we...
Yes.
And so we had a lot of fun growing up. And I remember during the war, 45, 46, air raids, and we used to have to cover all the windows and turn off all the lights until the siren went off, and rations and all that stuff during growing up.
Well, there was rationing during the
Mhm.
war. Do you remember rationing?
Yeah, we had stamps, and we couldn't buy things that we needed until we got our stamp, and it was time for us to buy. Yeah,
And what products were the
mostly
stamps for?
mostly sugar, margarine. We used to have to mix our own margarine with that coloring on it and stuff, and the staples. And we didn't have toilet paper, and all those things were rationed. And yeah.
So you do remember those?
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting back to the three of you that, boys were always trying to get your attention.
Sometimes we used to have a fight with them, so throw rocks and fight with them and stuff like that.
Did they write notes to you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know that when I was growing up and I was in the 8th grade, I was the only girl that got 3 boxes of candy from 3 different boys, and the girls were all mad.
What about Valentine's?
Valentine's, I got Valentine's all the time, and I got little music boxes and things like that when I was in the 8th grade.
Well, you were quite a popular person.
Well, the thing is that we used to go to the beach on summers. The Negretes had an army truck, and they charged us 50 cents.
Tell me about
The
that.
Negretes had the store down where Aguilera used to have the store on N Street before they built that underpass.
Yes,
They had a
yes.
store right there. Aguilera store, they took over the store, and the Negretes lived there. And they had a big army
What was
truck.
the name of the person?
I don't remember them. I just remember the one that went in my classroom, Ralph and Albert Negrete.
Yeah, they were good. They played guitar and they were
Yeah,
good singers.
and his sister was a singer in bands.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
they used to handle that little store there, and they used to take us to the beaches, Venice Beach and Long Beach and all those places. 50 cents
In the
during
big
the summer.
truck?
In the big truck. All of us in the big truck.
And how many